Hello everyone and welcome. Thank you for joining me in the video today. Today I wanted to show you this really cool and unusual instrument that I got my hands on. This is a Reform Boehm system bass clarinet made by Fritz Wurlitzer, the inventor of the Reform Boehm system. This instrument is even cooler because it is actually one of the first Reform Boehm system bass clarinet prototypes. And like a lot of Reform Boehm system bass clarinets, it has a narrow bore and uses a German bass clarinet mouthpiece. And it has a few other cool features like a fully automatic triple register vent / throw B flat mechanism. But it's also got a lot of cool and unusual keywork features that I've never seen on any other clarinet. If you look at the keywork, you can see it's a very advanced system with many additional mechanisms than your standard Boehm system clarinet. So let me go through some of the cool mechanisms on this instrument. So starting at the top, you can see that unlike most French bass clarinets and like a lot of German bass clarinets, the top two keys, the A and the A flat key, are not linked. Going down the instrument, you can see it's got the normal hole for the altissimo vent, but the cool thing about this bass clarinet is that the first finger touch piece is linked to the rest of the touch pieces. So what I mean by that is that, let's say you want to play an altissimo D. Normally you would kind of slide your finger down to uncover that vent. But this bass clarinet, you just play a D like you would on any B flat soprano clarinet. You just lift your first finger. So it makes some passages a little bit easier, not having to worry about having to slide your index finger. And another cool thing, because that finger is linked, you can finger F sharp with either your index finger like you normally would, but you can also finger it with your middle finger, third finger, or the first two fingers on the right hand. So this is just one example of an alternate fingering that you find in this instrument. It gives you a lot of different choices for different fingerings. And there's a lot of other weird alternate fingerings on this bass clarinet. So one of the weirder ones is C sharp, G sharp. So normally you'd play C sharp, B sharp, you'd play a C or a G, and then you just add the pinky key. But in this bass clarinet, it's designed so that you can play a D or an A and add either of the two fingers, the pointer finger or the middle finger, on the right hand, and it'll flatten it a half step to a flat or a D flat or C sharp or G sharp. And you can hear, depending on which finger I use, it gives it a little bit different tone color. I think that's part of the idea with this instrument. You have so many different alternate fingerings that you wouldn't normally have on any bass clarinet, German, Reform Boehm, or Boehm system, or otherwise. So you have a lot of choices depending on what you want to play. And like the C sharp, G sharp mechanism, there's also a similar mechanism for A flat, E flat. So if you look at this bass clarinet, you may notice it doesn't have an alternate A flat, E flat key like you would see in some top-of-the-line bass clarinets these days. Well, that's not a problem because you have an alternate fingering for A flat, E flat. So once again, you just finger an A in the lower register or an E in the upper register, and you can add either the F C key, F sharp, C sharp key, or the E B key, and either one of those will flatten that note a half step to A flat or E flat. So that just gives you another fingering. So there's a lot of situations where you're playing a passage with a lot of pinky keys and you might get stuck somewhere. This bass clarinet gives you a lot of ways out, so you can play A flat a lot of different ways. Just another feature that makes this a really ingenious instrument. It's sort of strange why you haven't seen more of these mechanisms like this on more modern instruments. This instrument is really far ahead of this time, and it's worth noting this bass clarinet was built in 1942, which was about 7 years before Fritz Wurlitzer officially started offering the Reform Boehm system clarinet. And just for an instrument made in 1942, it's got some really advanced mechanisms. Another advanced mechanism on this bass clarinet, so you know, normally on a clarinet like the F sharp, C sharp tone hole, controlled by like either the left hand pinky lever or this key right here, the tone hole would be on the left side and it would be closed. And for an instrument where you're trying to get as much resonance as possible, having a closed tone hole right below an open tone hole can make the note feel a little bit muffled. And some instruments, so the G and the D, so like 6 fingers and your thumb down, would be a little bit stuffy. And a lot of bass clarinets, you'll see they'll have an extra pad cup here, so there'll be like 2 tone holes essentially for F sharp, C sharp, one on either side. But this bass clarinet, the way it does it is it takes that tone hole and it moves it to the other side, and instead of being a closed pad cup, it's now always open. So the F sharp, C sharp tone hole is always open, and the way the lever mechanisms are arranged is completely different from anything you'll see on a French system clarinet. So that F sharp, C sharp pad cup is now an open standing pad cup, and when you close the F sharp, C sharp key, instead of like closing the F C key and opening the F sharp, C sharp key, it'll just close the first pad cup here to play an F sharp, C sharp. And then when you close the FC key, it closes 2 pad cups, and then when you close EB, it closes 3 pad cups. So it's arranged completely different than you would see on any Boehm system instrument. And you can see the mechanism is quite complicated. Or at least it looks complicated, but mechanically it's actually quite simple. It's a really ingenious solution, and it eliminates one of the crow's foot. And you can see you have a lot of, in the place of a crow's foot, you have a lot of different arms with a lot of adjustment mechanisms. So it gives you a lot of adjustability. And going down to the bottom instruments, so this instrument, like most bass clarinets of the time, at least most German bass clarinets of the time, only goes down to low D. I'm sure if it was made later, it would go to low C, but you can see it just has 2 thumb keys, E flat and D. So other than that, that's pretty much the instrument. One thing worth noting, like most Reform Boehm system bass clarinets, it's got a lot of extra vents to make certain notes sound more clear. So one of those notes, if you watched my video on the Kessler bass clarinet, you notice how I commented about how the B natural was a bit stuffy. Well, in this bass clarinet, it's got an extra vent right below the touch piece. So this is the B natural tone hole, this is the extra vent. So it makes that note just as clear as the alternate chromatic fingering. In fact, I would say it's a little bit more clear. Let me demonstrate. So you can hear it sounds really full and clear, which is not something you see in a lot of bass clarinets. That's usually a very bad note in a lot of instruments. Another bad note you tend to see is F sharp with just the index finger. So you can see on this note, there's also two pad cups here as well. So there's the F sharp tone hole and the extra vent right below the touch piece. And that note, once again, is just as clear as the chromatic fingering. So there's a lot of really ingenious mechanisms on this instrument, and it makes it a really full and rich sounding bass clarinet. Despite the small bore, it really sounds absolutely beautiful. This is a very intriguing instrument, and I'm very lucky to have it.